Hey everyone, what's up? On August 29th, 2016, Saints Row turns 10 years old. The Saints Row games are some of my favorite games of all time. I absolutely love the series, and I'm doing this video to celebrate 10 years of Saints Row. I'm not reviewing each game. That's not what this video is about. Maybe sometime in the future, but not in this video. I'm just talking about my experience with Saints Row. Let's get started. Back in September of 2006, I was 14 years old and I got an Xbox 360. After many hours of mowing lawns and I helped my uncle clean buildings after school. After many hours of doing side jobs, I finally got an Xbox 360 and I was looking to get some games. So me, my mom and my uncle went to GameStop and I was just looking around trying to see what looked cool, and all of a sudden I see this game on the shelf called Saints Row, and for some reason I wanted it. I didn't care about any other game on the shelf. I wanted to get Saints Row, but there was one problem. I was 14 years old and Saints Row was rated M. What could I do? My mom wasn't going to get it for me because she didn't buy me M-rated games or anything like that. So I waited for my mom to leave the store and I went up to my uncle and I asked him to get Saints Row for me. I had $40 and he needed to put the other $20 in, but I needed someone to buy the game since I couldn't, and he did it for me. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. Your uncle bought you an M-rated game when you were 14? Yeah, I've been playing M-rated games and watching gory movies and things like that since I was 10 years old, so it wasn't a problem. So he bought it for me, and little did I know at the time that Saints Row would be one of my favorite series of all time. I was absolutely hooked on Saints Row. Let me tell you why. Saints Row is an open world game. Some might call it a GTA clone. Whatever, it's an awesome game. And one of the first things that you'll notice when you play Saints Row is the character creation. It's pretty detailed for a game that came out in 2006, and it's still pretty detailed by today's standards. You have different options and different sliders to make your character as goofy or as normal as you want. And not only that, the type of clothes that you can buy for your character, the jewelry, sunglasses, hats, things like that. And you can buy blunts to smoke and beer to drink in the first Saints Row game, and it's pretty cool. But there's more. The car customization in Saints Row has always been good. It's always been fun. I remember when I first played Saints Row, I was surprised by the amount of customization in the game. I would go around and get different cars like Vegas, Compton, or Bootlegger and try to customize them in different colors and different ways to make them unique. It was very fun. I spent hours doing that. But the game itself is also fun too. The story's not bad. It's about your character joining the 3rd Street Saints and you're trying to take over the city of Stillwater, but you have other gangs in your way, like Los Carnales, the West Side Rollers, and Vice Kings, and you have to deal with those gangs and the FBI and the police while you're trying to take over the city of Stillwater. The story was not bad at all. It was actually pretty interesting and funny. The game does not take itself seriously, and yes, some of it can be cheesy, but the characters were interesting. You have Dex, Troy, Julius, Benjamin King, and of course, I can't forget Johnny Gat. For anyone who's played a Saints Row game before, you know who Johnny Gat is. He's pretty cool. In fact, he's one of my favorite characters ever in any video game. He's awesome. And one of my favorite scenes in Saints Row is when you and Johnny Gat are in an elevator and Johnny Gat is talking about how he is gonna skull fuck some bitch. And your character didn't speak that much in Saints Row. He only had a couple of lines, but I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said something like, "You might get herpes," and that was funny. I still love that scene till this day. Saints Row is just an awesome game, and the ending, I won't spoil it, but it was a great ending. It had me on the edge of my seat, and after playing Saints Row and seeing the ending, I definitely wanted more. I couldn't wait for a sequel. Now, there are some other things I want to mention before I talk about Saints Row 2. In Saints Row, it introduced its own version of activities. You had to complete these activities in order to progress through the main storyline. That can be annoying to some, and I understand it, but I didn't have a problem because they were fun. You had things like Snatch, where you had to steal prostitutes from pimps. Demolition Derby, you could race. and you had things like mayhem and insurance fraud, which are two of my favorite activities in the Saints Row series. Mayhem, you just have to go around and cause as much destruction as possible. It's pretty simple. And insurance fraud is so funny. You have to throw yourself in front of traffic, go into cars and get hit and jump around, and you have an adrenaline meter where it's so outrageous. Like, your character flies up in the air and you have to maneuver around and hit as many cars as possible for cash. Just fun activities, and it was something different. You know, you had to use them in order to progress through the main storyline, but it was pretty fun. And then you had the multiplayer. Not many people talk about the multiplayer in Saints Row from what I've seen, and that's a shame because the multiplayer was fun, especially with friends. I remember I was a part of a clan in school, and you had your own clan lobbies and you can fight other clans. You had game modes like Protect the Pimp, where of course you have to protect the pimp. It's like VIP. But the pimp has a pimp hand and he could kill you in one hit, so you didn't want to get too close to him. And you had things like Blinged Out Ride, where it's one team versus the other team, and you have to kill players and get money so you could upgrade your car. And once you upgrade it to the max, you have to park it in a certain spot to win. If your car blows up, then you have to start from scratch. Just very fun. Saints Row had awesome multiplayer. So overall, Saints Row is a fantastic game, and I recommend playing it if you have the Xbox 360. Now, let's talk about Saints Row 2. Saints Row 2 came out in October of 2008, and it's a better game than Saints Row. The graphics are better, they have more activities, and it's still goofy. The game doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's not too outrageous and too wacky to the point where it can become a little dull, but it's still funny. Johnny Gat is still there, and you have new characters, new gangs, you have different fighting styles, and unlike the first game, your character talks all the time, which to me, I'm indifferent to that, but it's an improvement on the first game's formula. Saints Row 2 did so much to improve, but the multiplayer, it's lacking and it sucks. They tried to bring the activities and put it into the multiplayer where it's PvP and you have to run around and do the activities while trying to kill other players. It's just boring, and Saints Row 2's multiplayer has nothing on Saints Row 1. It was a gigantic disappointment, but the single player and everything else, it's fun. Saints Row 2 is my favorite game so far in the series. Saints Row 2 came out in October of 2008, and GTA 4 came out in April of 2008. So GTA 4 came out a couple of months before Saints Row, and I bought GTA 4 because I was excited to play it, and I was so disappointed when I played GTA 4. I played it for like a couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks, and then I never played it again. Until a couple of years later. It took me years to beat GTA 4. It was so boring and I didn't like the story. I'm just not a fan of that game. After that, I was just looking for a game to fill in my need for open world action, and I'm so happy Saints Row 2 came out. In my opinion, Saints Row 2 is a way better game than GTA 4, and around the time of Saints Row 2's release, and after that too, I was going on forums quite a bit, and I kept hearing the same thing about Saints Row 2. Even some of the people that liked the game, they kept referring to it as a GTA clone. I think that's very dismissive of the series. Just because it's an open world action game doesn't mean that the only thing you can refer to it as is a GTA clone. It's more than that. It's a Saints Row game. Now, maybe the developers were hearing that a bit too much, because after Saints Row 2, they went in a different direction. The next game, Saints Row the Third, is pretty different from the last two games. It's almost identical, but it still has little things that makes it different. It's more goofy, it's more wacky, with some of the gangs like the Luchadors, and some of the enemies like Stag. I mean, they're like an invading force from outer space. And the way the humor is, you can tell that the developers were trying to take the series into a different direction. You can tell that they wanted to make the series more crazy, more outrageous, things like that. And I'm not saying it's a bad game. Saints Row the Third is my least favorite of the series so far, but it's not a bad game. I enjoyed it. I just thought the humor was kind of off sometimes. I wasn't laughing as much as I did with the previous games. The area was kind of small, and the gangs weren't memorable. That's just my opinion of the game. I didn't enjoy it as much as the other Saints Row games, but it's not a bad game. Now, if you think Saints Row 3 took the series in another direction, you should check out Saints Row 4. Now, the developers went balls to the wall with Saints Row 4. They went all out. In this game, your character is the president of Stillwater, but you get invaded by aliens, and the leader is called Zinyak. I have to give props to the voice actor who voiced Zinyak. He is a great antagonist. He's funny and interesting, and he is way better than the antagonist in Saints Row the 3rd. So, aliens invade. But wait, there's more. It gets more wackier and more outrageous. Your character is put into a simulation, and guess what? You have superpowers. That's right, superpowers. You can run fast like the Flash. You can run up walls. You can glide. You can throw fireballs. You can throw ice balls. You just have all these crazy weapons, and you're just running so fast. The game is absolutely ridiculous, and it's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's a fun game. But holy shit, did they go in a different direction. I don't know what else to say, it's crazy. I've played Saints Row 4 a bunch of times, and I just have a blast running around really fast and jumping really high, throwing ice balls, and just some of the weapons like the America gun where it just shoots out all this crazy stuff, and you have weapons where you could lift people up and you could throw them somewhere. It's just a crazy game, and you definitely cannot call Saints Row a GTA clone anymore, because I've never seen GTA do that. I think I know why the developers went in this direction. They wanted to separate themselves from Grand Theft Auto. I think they got tired of being called a GTA clone, and just like with Saints Row 3rd, they are moving towards different directions to separate themselves from GTA. And they're doing a good job if that's their goal, because Grand Theft Auto 5 and Saints Row 4 are such different games, and in my opinion, I enjoyed Saints Row 4 more than Grand Theft Auto 5. That's just my opinion, but wow, Saints Row 4 is a crazy fucking game. But I have a question. Where do you go from here? I'm pretty sure they're gonna make another Saints Row game, but you already set the bar really high for trying to be crazy. You have superpowers. You can glide. You can run around real fast. I already explained some of the powers. Where do you go? You're superhuman in Saints Row 4. How do you get crazier than that? How do you get wackier than that? Where are they going to go with Saints Row 5? What is the direction? How's the gameplay going to be like? Are they going to continue this superhuman thing? Are they going to try to make you even more powerful? Or are they going to try to, tone down how crazy and wacky it is and maybe go back to the formula of Saints Row 1 and 2? I don't know. But this is a spoiler, so if you haven't played Saints Row 4, you have been warned. If you have beaten Saints Row 4, then you know that the Saints have the option to time travel. Is Saints Row 5 going to be about traveling through time? That would be crazy. I mean, that'd be interesting, and I definitely would want to play that, but I just want to go back to the way Saints Row 2 is. I just want to see one more game like Saints Row 2. I don't mind if they go through more wackier and crazy adventures like going through time or God knows what else, but I just want to see one more game in the series where it's just like Saints Row 1 and 2, where it's a little less wacky, they cut back on that stuff a bit. That's just my opinion, but the possibilities are endless if you think about it. I mean, they gave themselves a way to either go back to the way Saints Row 1 and 2 are, or just get more crazy time travel, give yourself more superpowers or anything like that, like the way Saints Row 4 is. I mean, the ending of Saints Row 4 kind of left them open to do whatever the fuck they want, and I think that's a good idea, but where are they gonna go? I mean, can you imagine the Saints going through time? That'd be sweet. If they do go through time, I would like to see them go through the Samurai era, the French Revolution, ancient Rome, and maybe Genghis Khan. That'd be pretty cool. But let me know what you think about the series, and let me know what you think about where they are going to go. What's the future for Saints Row? I already gave you some of my ideas, but I want to hear your opinion. Thank you for watching this video. I want to hear your thoughts. I am reviewing Fallout 4 soon, and I have other content planned for this channel, so be on the lookout. Have a great day.